Traveling
Russia,
is
the
often seen
world's
as a gateway
largest
to cultural
country, is a
exchange and
land of
personal
stunning
growth.
contrasts.
However, geopolitical tensions, security concerns, and diplomatic disputes can restrict or prohibit travel to certain countries. For American citizens, several nations are either entirely off-limits or pose significant challenges due to various factors. Below is an exploration of 10 countries where Americans face substantial travel restrictions or outright bans. 1. North Korea. North Korea stands as one of the most restrictive countries for American travelers. In 2017, following the tragic death of Otto Warmbier, an American student detained by North Korean authorities, the U.S. Department of State imposed a travel ban on its citizens wishing to visit the Democratic People's Republic of Korea (DPRK). This ban has been renewed annually, with the latest extension valid until August 31, 2025. Despite North Korea's recent reopening to foreign tourists after a prolonged pandemic-induced closure, American passports remain invalid for travel to, in, or through North Korea. The primary concern is the serious risk to United States nationals of arrest and long-term detention, as stated by the U.S. government. 2. Iran. Iran and the United States have had a fraught relationship since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. While there isn't an outright ban preventing Americans from traveling to Iran, the U.S. Department of State has consistently issued Level 4, do not travel advisories for the country. These advisories cite risks such as arbitrary detention and the absence of diplomatic relations, which means the U.S. government cannot provide emergency services to its citizens in Iran. Additionally, Iran requires American travelers to obtain a visa in advance, and the process can be lengthy and uncertain due to the strained diplomatic ties. 3. Syria. Syria has been engulfed in civil war since 2011, leading to widespread instability, violence, and humanitarian crises. The U.S. Department of State has designated Syria as a Level 4, do not travel country, highlighting threats such as terrorism, civil unrest, and the risk of kidnapping. Moreover, the U.S. Embassy in Damascus suspended operations in 2012, severely limiting consular assistance to American citizens. Given the ongoing conflict and the presence of various militant groups, travel to Syria is highly discouraged, and obtaining a visa is nearly impossible for U.S. nationals. 4. Yemen. Yemen is another nation where Americans face significant travel restrictions. The country has been embroiled in a complex civil war since 2014, resulting in a dire humanitarian situation and the proliferation of armed groups, including terrorist organizations. The U.S. Department of State advises against all travel to Yemen, citing risks such as armed conflict, terrorism, civil unrest, health risks, kidnapping, and landmines. Additionally, the U.S. government has limited ability to assist citizens in Yemen, making it a highly dangerous destination for American travelers. 5. Libya. Since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, Libya has struggled with political instability, the presence of armed militias, and ongoing violence. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4, do not travel advisory for Libya, highlighting concerns such as crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The lack of a stable central government and the prevalence of extremist groups make Libya a highly volatile environment. Furthermore, the U.S. Embassy in Tripoli suspended operations in 2014, limiting consular services for American citizens. 6. Somalia. Somalia has faced decades of conflict, lawlessness, and the presence of terrorist organizations like al-Shabaab. The U.S. Department of State advises against all travel to Somalia, citing crime, terrorism, civil unrest, health issues, kidnapping, and piracy. The lack of effective law enforcement and the high threat of violent crime make it extremely dangerous for American travelers. Additionally, the U.S. government has limited ability to provide emergency services to its citizens in Somalia. 7. Venezuela. Venezuela's political and economic turmoil has led to significant safety concerns for travelers. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4, do not travel advisory for Venezuela due to crime, civil unrest, poor health infrastructure, kidnapping, and arbitrary arrest and detention of U.S. citizens. There have been instances where the Venezuelan regime has detained foreign nationals, including Americans, to use as leverage in international negotiations. These detentions, often on allegations of espionage or terrorism, have raised serious concerns about the safety of American travelers. 8. Afghanistan. Following the Taliban's return to power in 2021, Afghanistan has become increasingly dangerous for American travelers. The U.S. Department of State advises against all travel to Afghanistan due to armed conflict, civil unrest, crime, terrorism, and kidnapping. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul suspended operations in August 2021, severely limiting consular assistance. The volatile security situation and the potential targeting of Westerners make Afghanistan an extremely high-risk destination for Americans. 9. Iraq. Iraq continues to face challenges related to terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The U.S. Department of State has issued a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory for Iraq, highlighting the risks of terrorism, kidnapping, armed conflict, and mission Iraq's limited capacity to provide support to U.S. citizens. While certain regions have seen improvements in security, the overall environment remains unpredictable, and Americans may be targeted by extremist groups. 10. Belarus. Belarus has experienced political unrest, particularly following the disputed 2020 presidential election, which led to widespread protests and a government crackdown on dissent. The U.S. Department of State currently advises against travel to Belarus due to arbitrary detentions, the risk of wrongful arrest, and the country's alignment with Russia in its war against Ukraine. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Belarus has also faced sanctions and travel restrictions. The closure of the U.S. Embassy in Minsk further complicates any potential assistance to American travelers in distress. While Americans enjoy one of the most powerful passports in the world, granting them visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to many countries, certain destinations remain off-limits due to security risks, diplomatic tensions, or government restrictions. Nations like North Korea and Syria impose near-total bans, while countries like Iran and Venezuela pose significant risks due to political instability or strained relations with the U.S. Before traveling, it's crucial for U.S. citizens to check the latest travel advisories from the State Department and consider safety, diplomatic relations, and local laws. Some countries may not explicitly ban American travelers, but risks such as arbitrary detention, terrorism, or civil unrest make them highly dangerous. If you're planning international travel, always research visa requirements, local laws, and emergency support options. Staying informed can help ensure a safe and trouble-free journey. Would you like me to add an introduction or refine any sections for your YouTube script?